Hello, everyone. It's great to meet you today. And let me start with VUCA world. I guess we've all heard about VUCA acronym, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And today, more than ever before, it's more tangible in the IT industry. Last month, OpenAI released ChatGPT 4. Microsoft announced collaboration with OpenAI, bringing to life Bing Chat. Google, at the same time, announced Code Red, being threatened by Microsoft and what's been happening and how quickly it's been happening in the IT industry for the first time in many, many years. At the same time, not a single day goes by without the news about AI and how it can transform our everyday life. I even had a conversation recently with one of the engineers on my team, and he told me that for the first time, he feels that's a breakthrough technology since appearance of iPhone. And today, we're here on an Agile conference, and we're asking ourselves a question: too agile or not too agile? Or maybe differently, how too agile? But I will tell you, this is the wrong question to be asked. But let me, let me start with who am I? And why am I even asking that questions? So I started, as Kasia told you already, as a software engineer. A few years, many years ago, let's not dive into that rabbit hole. Yep. And back then, it was like after 2 years, I joined the company. And I've heard about agile transformation. I've heard about that for the first time in my career, but that wasn't the first time for that company when they try to approach agile transformation. And what I've seen back then, it was all about bringing and hiring a consultancy agency that started to provide the training for us. It was like certified Scrum Master, product owner, and other workshops in culture way, how to do Agile, what is Agile. New roles appeared like Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, product owners, and so on and so forth. Also, Agile coaches within the organization was going to different teams, and we had workshops with them on culture and how to do better daily meeting or retrospective or things like that. Later on, my manager back then asked me that, Kasia, do you want to be a Scrum Master? And I said, yeah, let's give it a try. Why not? Maybe that's going to be my journey. And that's how my journey started. And I dive into process. I fell in love with Scrum, Kanban later on, with different approaches and different companies at the same time. And I joined one of the companies. Back then, my friend asked me, Kasia, that's a great opportunity. This company has never, ever done agile transformation before. I was like, fuck, yeah, that's new. First transformation for them, another transformation for me. That's a great opportunity. Why not to do it? So I joined the company. At that moment of time, the agile transformation there were like, it was great. It was a great traction. A lot of people from different management level were joining the transformation efforts. They was like, oh, this is amazing. We're going to transform our organization. That's perfect. But after a few months, and of course, what we did, we hired a consultancy agency to provide us workshops, like, of course, certified ones. That was a great, but it's not a story for that topic. And after a few months, what we've seen was that less and less people were engaged. Even though we had a vision, had an idea on how to do it, we had a working group for the transformation efforts, sometimes even metrics, working with all level of leadership, but it didn't work at the end. And even though I was a part of this group, I was going with other agile coaches, scrum masters, leadership people also to different teams, and we've been having retrospectives with them. We've been having like system thinking approach, how those puzzles work together to understand the problems and to tackle the most important problems. And even though we had everything given to us on a plate, we did so many mistakes back then. And even though we've been focused on changing the mindset, bringing people knowledge, approaching the desire to change, so the ADKAR model that was we were told about today, even though we had all of those pieces, we didn't succeed. And why is that? So that gave me those story. When I look at that right now, it gives me like a question. So what we did wrong? I'm not sure. And also that gives me a question how my agility, how my leadership has changed over the years. And when I'm thinking about this right now, there are three things, just three things that are the most important things for me right now as a team manager, as a leader, definitely not a Scrum Master right now, not an Agile coach. And what are those three things? First and foremost, that would be easy because I already showed you the first top two, so yes. The first one, of course, people. True leadership, we've all heard about this today. It's all about focusing on who are you working with. Letting people to grow, giving them the opportunity to really bring themselves to work and be themselves. Understanding the individuals that you work with, and only using that, you can really build the engaged environment, engaged team, department, organization, put your own thing here. The second ingredient that I would put into that pot would be business. To understand what we're doing, but not only understanding this, but owning this. We own the business. We solve the problems that our users have. We bring to the life the needs they have. But it's not about doing and digging from this part to that part. It's about really bringing the ownership to the equation. And we more than often forget about that part, to bring the ownership to that. We own business and we own metrics. And last but not least, and that was the hardest lesson for me, because even though I started as a software engineer, when I switched to the Scrum Master role, I tend to switch myself fully into people part. I was like super focused on how to deal with people, so the first part, and also super focused on how to do things, so the process part. So I forgot about the last one, which is technology and architecture. And even though I've heard so many times that, for instance, a Scrum Master do not need to know about the technology, fuck, that's wrong. We really do need to understand, because what we're doing, we're actually writing software. We're not doing anything else. And if you are not genuinely curious about what you're doing and about architecture practices, you're focusing on the wrong things. So those are the top three things. And I started to wonder, I spent so many years in a process world. I was a Scrum Master, I was an Agile coach, I was working with people from the senior leadership to the lowest level. And there's no process. Why is that? So I've decided to do a research. Yes, every talk has some part of the research, so here's my research. So I've started to look around the internet about, okay, what's happening right now in the IT industry? What do people talk about Scrum, Kanban, Agile? And I do not recommend doing that research again, because there are so many crazy ideas out there. But one thing that struck me was that more and more people are talking that Scrum or Kanban or other Agile approach do not work for them. And there is one thing true about that research, is that there's not a single person that do not have a strong opinion about project management, product management, Agile, not Agile, whatever you put there. And I'm not the exception here, of course. And I found out one newsletter, strongly recommend, it's amazing, about how big tech runs projects. And and I was just like, okay, let's check that. That's pretty interesting because they are able to ship quickly, of course, not in all of the cases, but in most of the cases. A lot of engineering practices that we use in our teams comes from the big tech. So maybe let's try to take a deeper look on how do they operate on daily basis. And perfect for me, this guy already made the research. So those were the companies that were taken under the account. So a lot of high tech, so like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Uber, Netflix, every top big tech company. But the question, if there's a central methodology. So by central methodology, it's all about, for instance, having Kanban maturity model for the whole organization or some kind of other approach that is fit and decided by the senior management that, yeah, let's use it for everyone. So the answer is they do not have anything like that. Again, another question is who typically leads engineering projects? There are no project managers, there are no Scrum Masters there. Mostly it's focused on the engineering managers and also engineers. So engineers are running projects. There's a great level of ownership there, but how to do it, that's another question. And also sometimes engineering managers or tech leads. One part that's missing here, how do they operate? A lot of text here, so let me simplify that for you. It's one common approach, to be honest. They just simply plan, build, and ship. Of course, there's something beyond this. So on understanding how do they operate after all, gathering metrics and acting on that. But basically, first thing that comes to my mind was waterfall again. They're just planning everything, doing and shipping it. No, it's not a waterfall, definitely not. It's just an iterative approach. Sometimes it's prototyping, but sometimes it's bringing the full design up front and just doing that. And that works for them. So again, process and that first question, agile or not too agile, let's go deeper. So why do we even have processes in our organization? So when I ask myself that question, there are at least few stakeholders that comes to my mind when it comes to process. First and foremost, organizations are built from people, and people are the main stakeholders for having processes. From the neuroscience perspective, it helps us to reduce the cognitive load, so we can focus on what we're doing. Of course, by predefined processes, we have places to collaborate, to make better decisions on the way. Definitely, it helps us to be more productive. But at the same time, people are not the only stakeholders for the process. We also have organization in general, management, so other structures that comes within having the organization in general. So why do they need processes? What for? Definitely, for instance, every organization, what they do have, the goals. So are we progressing towards our goals or not? We can have some metrics to answer us those questions. For instance, I don't know, cycle time, many others. I'm not going to list all of them here. It gives us some sense of structure, that we have it under control, that we have processes, that our needs gonna be fulfilled by those. But at the same time, sometimes it's just an illusion of control. Those are the pluses, those are the stakeholders. But if we take a look from a different angle to that, what are the drawbacks of having the predefined processes in our workplace? If I think about the metaphor of the process, for me that would be a box. So imagine having a box, and that's your process. Sometimes this box is predefined and standing on the shelf like a Scrum or Kanban, and you just take this box and you just take your people that you work with and put inside this box. And what are the limitations to putting the people inside this box? It limits the creativity. Individuals' creativity, because yeah, we all know about self-organization, giving people the boundaries, and within those boundaries, they can self-organize. But when you give people boundaries, you limit your opportunities to think outside of this box and outside of these boundaries. And when you think about that, it may happen that because of you put that process in place, because you put this box in place, you didn't get the results that you wanted, or you got the much lower results than you could have. At the same time, imagine having those boxes. And it doesn't have to be Scrum or Kanban, it's just a process. And people are inside those boxes, and they got used to these boxes because it's cool. We've been in those boxes for many years. It works for us. So they got used to this. And now there comes Agile transformation. Again, let's count how many times during this whole conference that's gonna be pointed out by someone. Agile transformation. And the leadership decided, let's all use Kanban, for instance. Those are your new shiny boxes. Let's put yourself there. And people decided, no, I do like my old box, because they got used to this box. And that is okay. Because by giving the people new boxes, new shiny boxes, even though for us they may seem amazing, because we understand how this will change their life, at the end of the day, maybe it won't. What else? This one is if you really have one box to fit everyone. So you're not changing and you're not adapting the way you operate for your needs, for particular teams' needs or different organizational levels. And you think that every box can fit everyone. That's definitely not the case, but sometimes it happens. And also I've done this at least one time or maybe more even. And within having a process, when we do have any kind of predefined process, sometimes it comes with the bureaucracy. So we're producing another status report. We're producing another combination about how many story points we're using, or velocity, or another thing. And at some point of time, we stop questioning ourselves. Is it really necessary for us? Does it work for us? I'm not so sure. So I don't want to live in that world. But still, I do want to have a benefit that having a process in a workplace works. So what is the solution for me? Is there any solution for me? Let's dive into that. So here are a few lessons that I've learned over the years. And right now that I'm focused mostly on when I'm running the projects and when I'm an engineering manager mostly. First and foremost, understand the business. Not only you as a leader, you as a Scrum Master, but also you as an engineer. Deeply understand what we're doing, why we're doing this, who are our users, and not only understand this, but be the co-owner. Drive the roadmap along with your product owner or along with your product manager. It's not only their responsibility to understand that. It's also our responsibility to do that. And if we shift that equation, if we let people to get to know more, the magic thing can happen. They're gonna shift to being curious problem solvers. And then they're gonna become much more motivated. Naturally, you don't have to do any magical things. It will happen by just doing that. It may seem simple. It's not. In practice, of course, it takes time, but that definitely helps. And that's also what big tech is actually doing. Second lesson to me was that know approaches. So knowing Scrum, knowing Kanban, Agile, OKRs, list your own things here. Definitely helps. Yes, do know them. Go to workshops, learn about them. Go to meetups, definitely. But really, don't take this pretty new shiny box out of the shelf and use it. Because your environment is different. And what works for you probably won't even work for the team that sits next to you in your own department. Because you've got different people, you're probably a different part of business, you have different experiences, so don't rely on anything. At the same time, that's my biggest lesson, get back to true engineering. How many of you recently read or maybe was listening to a podcast about some new engineering practices, or even the old ones, or how to write a great design doc, or what is the architecture, or how to solve my business problems with my technology? What are the problems of my engineers? What is the tech radar, for instance, and how can we use it? There are many, many practices, and I strongly recommend getting back to the true engineering and understand what we're doing, what kind of software are we building, and how do we build the software. Last but not least, question things every single day. Challenge yourself and challenge others. Challenge your manager. Do we really need that? Challenge yourself. Maybe let's throw to the trash daily meeting. Maybe we don't need to do a retrospective. I know that may sound crazy, but seriously, maybe we don't need that. Maybe in your environment, recently even, I've read in Bartek Pucek, he's one of the venture capitals from Poland, and he was writing about one of the startups that he works in, and they do not do daily meetings. And that works for them, and they're pretty successful. So question things, even to the core of the things that you think right now, they're supernatural. And of course we have to do it because that's the baseline. Maybe it's not. Maybe this baseline stops you. Because when you're gonna do all of those things, naturally, your people gonna be more motivated because you're gonna understand what they're doing. You work with software engineers. And if you're gonna understand them, you're gonna let them understand business. You're gonna bring these things. They're gonna become motivated, much more motivated. They're gonna have more autonomy. Of course, you have to also provide them a lot of transparency and autonomy in order to do so. But those people gonna need less structure. And the less structure you're gonna need, with less resources, you can build some kind of process that's gonna work for you and that's gonna push you to the next level. Because this is the baseline. Motivated people that have ownership over what they're doing, and they know how to do it, and they know in what kind of environment do they work. Less structure is actually more. So let's look back to the main question that we've started from. Too agile or not too agile? My answer to that question is, it doesn't matter. Because guess what? If your company is on the market, they're probably agile enough right now because they're there and they're making money. So that's not the right question to be asked. It doesn't matter if you're agile, if you're not. So do not use processes, predefined processes, know them, but create your own. Focus on people, business, and technology. And as a result, you will have a process that's going to work for you. And that's for me what the whatever works approach is. Thank you.